it corresponds to this. And you get that by mapping the opcode, RS, RT, RD, shift amount, and func. Right? And that's the only thing you have there.
Can I ask you one quick question?
Yes.
The reason why it's reading the NPC now is because it has to pass that information on to the next register,
Yes,
correct?
because if it's a branch, by the time I get down here, I need NPC to do the calculation.
Okay.
So at the time I fetch, right, I assume that it's incremented. Right? And then only later, if it's a branch, based on condition, will I pick something else.
Okay.
Right? And we'll see, because of a branch, we have to do what's called a stall. If a branch instruction comes along, we can't do anything else until we know what the branch says to do.
Okay.
Okay? Yes.
In this case, for this instruction, which is a double add,
Yes.
we use NPC only to update the program counter, right?
Eventually, yes.
There is no other way we use NPC.
Not in this context.
Just to update the
Oh,
NPC
yes.
to
Right.
for the next instruction.
Yes. Ultimately, that will be used to calculate the branch target address if it were a branch.
But
All right.
I mean, in this case, it's
We write it anyway.
Yeah.
Doesn't hurt.
Yeah. 'Cause we
In
don't
fact,
use
all
that.
of these things get done anyway.
Mhm.
I mean, so it's all, even if it's an immediate instruction, it's still fetching RT.
Yeah.
Okay, even though it doesn't need it.
Because it has 4 registers that it has to keep updated, correct?
So no, because you don't need control logic. You just read the register anyway. I don't care. I'm just never going to use what's in
Oh, okay.
RT. I'm just never going to use it. I don't care. Read it anyway. Fine. If I want the answers to questions 1, 2, and 3, and you also give me 7,
That's
I'm
fine.
just like, I don't care. I'm only going to do 1, 2, and 3. I don't care if you did more work.
Okay.
And the advantage of it is you don't have to have special control logic in the circuitry that says, ooh, sometimes read it and sometimes don't. It always does. I just ignore it if I don't need it. It simplifies the logic. Simplifies the logic. I don't need a bunch of extra control logic. All right? So, how about the decode stage? What do?
It's gonna.
I read the fetch decode register,
Mhm.
both NPC and IR, and then I write DX. Now, what is it that I write to DX? Let's think about it.
The RS.
So I take from here the RS field
The
and
RT.
the RT field. These are 5-bit values that correspond to RS and RT, whatever they are. So if this is 9 and 27, then this is a 9, this is a 27. And then the contents of register 9 go here, and the contents of register 27
Goes
here.
there.
Right?
Right.
All right, so that's what read the GPR does, and then write the DX. So what elements get written to the DX?
The A gets written.
NPC gets brought
Yeah.
across.
Yeah.
A and B.
A and B.
Immediate
Immediate.
gets signed, extended, and written,
And
the IR gets brought across. So when it says write DX, it's all of those. Okay?
Dr. Morris, one more question.
Yes.
We are already writing RS and RT, correct, into
Yes.
the GPR. So when that bottom down there when it says the IR, is it just taking the whole cache, the whole IR?
Yes, it's taking the register because it takes, during the decode stage, it takes the entire IR. I didn't have enough space, so I made it appear to be littler. But it's essentially the entire IR because when I go into the execute stage, I need the instruction to know what to do.
Okay.
So I keep a local copy of the IR just before the stage associated with that instruction. Because remember, at any point after the latency, how many instructions are concurrently being executed? 5 of them. I've got 1 in the decode stage, one in the fetch stage, 1 in the decode stage, 1 in the execute stage, 1 in the memory stage, and 1 in the write back stage. And at the beginning of the clock cycle, associated with the stage that the instruction is in, it needs to know what the IR is for that instruction, so it does the right thing.
Okay.
Makes sense, right?
So does that mean that A and B is getting written twice?
No, B gets written twice. It gets written here. It gets written every single clock cycle.
Okay.
Okay? It gets written for the, so right now, okay, right, so Remember, this happened at clock cycle, say, 1. Now, this is happening in, say, clock cycle 2, right? But at the same time, the next instruction is doing this.
Right.
And clock cycle too.
During clock cycle 2, the next instruction is doing this.
Right. Okay.
That's pipelining. And now, when we go to execute, right? So now, what does it do? It reads DX. So it needs the IR to know what to do. It needs the immediate in case that goes into the ALU. It needs A and B in case those go into the ALU or in case they go into this comparator. And it needs next PC in case it goes into the ALU.
Okay.
Now the control signal on the MUX that we just got done deriving picks the right value, either A, NPC, or B, or IMM, right? And if necessary, routes it through this little shifter that we didn't talk about. So no matter what, coming into the ALU, in this case, it's DX.A and DX.B. Go into the ALU. What signal ALU op gets asserted in this case?
Daddy.
Add.
Well.
Right? The 3 bits that mean add fires. The ALU does its thing, okay, based on ALU op, right? And then what?
It writes to the XM.
You write XM. So what goes into XM? The condition, whether it means anything or not.
The results.
Okay. XM.Y, the output of the ALU, we just copy the IR across, and we copy B across.
Right.
Whether we need it or not. So, look, this comparator is always comparing, and it's always generating condition, whether it means anything or not. Right? In this case, the only thing that matters is A plus B, because it happens to be a DAG. The fact that it's copying B over here,
Doesn't matter.
the fact that it's copying condition up here doesn't matter.
Long as we got Y.
It's going to be ignored. All we care about is the result of our calculation. Now, in the meantime, the previous instructions being decoded, and the newest instruction is being fetched. So I've got 3 instructions that are simultaneously being executed. One in the decode stage, one in the fetch stage, one in the decode, one in the execute. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So here we go. Now, the instruction that used to be in execute hops over into the memory stage. So here we go. I read XM. What does that mean? Condition Y, B, and IR. Right? Now, do I need to have Dcache access?
No.
The answer is no. Right? So it simply writes MW. So what relevant pieces get written?
The Y.
Y and IR. Does it, okay? Now, Dcache, dWrite, dRead didn't assert. Right? All right, so the relevant pieces are Y and IR. Now, in the meantime, the instruction just above it, just below it is here. The instruction just above it, just below it is here. And the instruction just below it is here. All right? Does it make sense?
Yes.
By the way, here, how do we know whether or not we need to read the XM condition? How do we know that? If it's a branch.
If it's a branch instruction, it needs the
Right?
condition, right?
So we need to know whether or not it's a branch. And that tells us whether or not to read it and do the either
Next program count.
NPC plus 4 or
Branch talk.
BTA. Makes sense, right? All right, good. So then we read MW, which includes Y, LMD, and IR. Okay? And then, how do we know whether or not to write the GPR?
By the multiplux.
What kind of instruction is it? Well, so that's what the IR tells us.
Right.
And if it's an ALU instruction, indeed, we need. So we get the field, the register to be written, RD comes from here, goes in here, and Y
Goes in.
comes in here, read gets asserted, write gets asserted, blam, it gets stored in there. You see it?
Mm-hmm.
And, well, guess what? Look, I'm not going to do the shift instruction. We could, it's not, it's a simple addition. I'm going to ignore it for now, because I want to try to get through this. All right. All right, load. What does load do? Here we go. Read PC, read iCache, calculate PC for 4. Do we need to read the XM?
No.
No. Okay. We don't need XM. We write FD. All right. Now, what does the load instruction need to do?
Read the page.
It needs to read FD, so it reads the IR. It takes next PC and simply copies it across. Okay, it copies IR across. Now, which GPRs does it need to read?
It needs the
All
R,
it really needs is
The immediate.
RS
base
and
register.
which
All it needs is the base register, which is
RS.
A, right? It also needs M.
Right.
So the relevant pieces that get written to DX in this instruction are simply A and immediate. In fact, they all get written,
Right, because to the next register.
right? So the only relevant ones are A, M, and IR.
Right.
All right? All right, then what happens? Then we go into execute. For a load instruction, what happens in the execute stage?
You're gonna
You're gonna
calculate the effective
Address.
So therefore, this MUX picks what?
The immediate
IMM goes into the ALU.
And then
this
RS.
MUX picks what?
RS,
A.
A rather.
Which is the contents of RS. And that goes into the AM. So A goes in here,
B.
IMM goes in here. What signal comes in here?
add.
Add. ALU op means add. It does the add, records the output into XM.
Mm-hmm.
It puts the condition there, even though we're not going to use it.
Mm-hmm.
It puts Y here. It puts B here, even though we're not going to need it. Okay? And in particular, it copies IR across, which we do need. All right? Then what?
It takes the Y.
Read XM. Okay? Bam. Do we need Dcache access in this case?
No.
No. So we write MW. What gets written?
Why?
The effective address.
Content in why.
Y gets written even though we don't need it, because it's an effective address. Right?
Right.
Do we need to do Dcache? Yes, because it's a load. So we do Dcache, this effective address. Read asserts, the value is recorded in LMD, and the IR gets copied across.
Correct.
Right?
Is why is the effective address?
In this case, Y doesn't mean anything, even though it gets copied across.
Because LMD holds the
Because
address.
LMD has the stuff of interest. All Y was used for was the address in the Dcache.
Oh, okay. What
Right?
we need is the data.
What we really need is the stuff that's sitting in LMD.
Right.
And as well as IR.
And then it writes it back.
In the write back stage, what do?
It
We read
read
MW, look
Uh-huh.
at the IR,
and write
and
GPR.
discover that it's a load instruction. Therefore, we take, so which MUX input gets picked?
Lower.
LMD, so that value gets
Written back to
here.
GPR.
RT field from IR goes in here. Okay? Write asserts, and the value gets recorded into RT.
Dr. Morris, I'm
Yes.
so sorry. This confuses me now because I thought that we need Y, which is the effective address,
We
to
do.
find out where we put this data in. So I thought that was important.
It is in the memory stage.
Right.
We took Y, brought it into the Dcache's address lines, asserted read, and out popped the data at that
So it's got the
address.
data at the address.
And that goes into LMD.
Okay.
And right, and then the contents of LMD are subsequently
Written back.
using the RT field of the IR.
So now, Dr. Morris, let me get this straight in my head. Once that multiplex, and once it goes through the LMD, goes through the multiplex, it's going back to that DD, right? What we call
Yes.
DD. But then the
Yes.
RT is where we're going to store it once it gets into the GPR.
RT tells us where to store it.
Right, that's what, but see, it's in DD right now, right?